It takes some time. Yeah. Good afternoon. Last class we have essentially looked at an important step called the resolution and composition of forces, wherein we are able to resolve a given force along the rectangular coordinate system, Cartesian coordinate system, along x and y axis, which are at right angle, applying right angle triangle geometry understanding and its trigonometry. And you have also resolved the force along the axis set, which are not at right angle, rather an acute angle or obtuse angle. You will be able to do applying triangle law forces or parallelogram law forces. So you would be able to add two forces, or you'd be able to resolve a given force into two axis set, is what you have learned in the last class. So if you are good at that, you are confident, and we can go ahead with today's lecture. So today we are going to look at three different problems of system of forces acting on bodies of different cases. Like the way we classify the system forces, we look at for individual case an example, and we are going to find out what is called the resultant of system of force. That's essentially what is the objective of these two periods that we are going to look at it, right? So if we have got the point of today's lecture, I think it is convenient. Now we can go ahead looking at the problem set. Let me share. My PPT. That's it. So are you able to see this board?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah, this is lecture number 3. I just have written down this. We are going to look at today a resultant of system of forces. In bracket, I have written in a plane. That means it is planar system of forces. The forces acting on body can be considered as lying in an imaginary plane. No forces are coming out of that plane, which is acting on a body. That's called a planar system of forces. So that system of forces can be classified into three groups. One is called concurrent system of force, another one is parallel system of forces, and third general system of forces. So the word itself define what is the system of forces looks like. Concurrent system of force means number of forces acting on body will be passes through a common point. If this is the point in a body, you will have all the forces which are acting along the point or towards the point, or so the line of action of forces all are will be at a point called the concurrent point. So this system is what is called the concurrent system of force. What do you mean by parallel system of forces? You will have system of forces acting in a body, all are parallel. So if this is all the forces acting on a member like this, then this is all parallel, called a parallel system of forces. What do you mean by general system of forces? The system of force which is neither parallel nor concurrent. For example, look at this as a frame. So in this frame, this point is fixed in the ground, and you have three members connecting, and this is a structure. So if I have a force here, one, another force acting here, and then the third force is acting in this joint. So look at here, you have two forces which are parallel, but third force is horizontal. And if you look at the line of action, so if I extend the line of action of this force, it is intersecting. These two are intersecting here. These two are concurrent, but this is not so. So this is what is called general system of forces. This is case 3, general system of forces, and this is case 2, which is parallel system of forces, and this is case 1 as example, a concurrent system of forces. So 1, 2, and 3. So we are going to look at rigid body, and we look at the system of forces acting on a body, and then we will do a process called replace that by a single force called a resultant. So here I have 5 forces. If I replace this by a single force, that's called a resultant. Here I have 4 forces. I replace this by a single force and represent that on this member. That is its resultant. I have here 3 forces. I replace them and represent in the frame by a single force. That is its resultant. So that is what today you are going to learn. So for that, let us look at this example problem. Right? So look at in this picture, you have been given this post where this post is already acted upon by two forces. One is of 500 Newton force, another one is of 200 Newton force at point C. Also, there is a tension cable. The orientation of the cable is given by point A with respect to this post BC. So it is this much distance away from post in horizontally, and from point C it is down at this distance. So this is the configuration of the rigid body post acted upon by two forces and a support cable. So now what is the statement of the problem? Knowing that the tension in the rope AC is 365 Newton. So there is a tension in this. So the tension, how do you represent? I'll represent it like this. So I take this tension in this, and that is 365 Newton force. Determine the resultant of three forces exerted at point C of post BC. So in this post BC at point C, there are now three forces. Two are already there, and one due to this support cable tension. So these three forces, I should replace it by a single force, and that is what is called resultant of today's learning, right? So how do I do that? Let me just take this point C and represent the forces acting on that point. So this is the force 500 Newton. So how the forces represented or characterized? It is represented by magnitude, and it would be represented by its direction. So this angle is important now. And then its point of application. So point of application is point C here. Right? So I require this direction for force F1. So this is say force F1. So let's say this is angle theta 1. So what is this angle theta 1? How do I get? So this theta 1 will be obtained here. See, it is not explicitly given angle in degrees. Rather, it is given by its slope. So what is dy by dx? 7 by 24. So slope is given by tan of this angle. So this angle, that's theta 1. So that will be tan inverse of opposite side of this representation is 7 by adjacent side 24. So I would get what is theta 1. So what is theta 1? 7 by 24. Shift tan inverse answer is what is 16.26 degrees. 16.26 degrees. So this angle here is 16.26 degrees. So magnitude, direction, and point of application. That's the representation of one force. The second force here is say 200 Newton. So 200 Newton acting like this. So I just represent it once again. This is 200 Newton. So now you see what is the direction for that. I will always expect to represent by default angle to horizontal, say theta 2. This is force F2. So how do I get this angle theta 2? It is given by this. So its opposite side is 3, adjacent side is 4. So theta 2 will be tan inverse of opposite is 3 by 4. So you would get 3 divided by 4. Shift tan inverse answer 36.87 degrees. 36.87 degrees. So that is your theta 2. So I have here this angle theta 2 36.87 degrees. So if you understood this, you would definitely know what is that I'm going to do next. This tension. So magnitude I know. What is its direction? Its direction to horizontal, say this. So that is theta 3. So how do I get? Look at this forms a triangle now. Right? And that triangle is right angle triangle here. So what is this angle? Opposite by adjacent. So theta 3 is now tan inverse of opposite is 1100 divided by what is adjacent 960. That is this length. Because I require this angle opposite by adjacent is what is this, or the same angle theta 3 can also be looked at here. So opposite is this height of the post 1100 and adjacent is 960 mm. So if I put this, I would get what is this angle. So it is 1100 divided by 960. I would have tan inverse of answer, that is 48.89 degrees. 48.89 degrees. So this angle again is to horizontal, and that force is now the third force, which is tension given by 365 Newton, and this is to horizontal theta 3. The angle is 48.89 degrees. So that's all. This is step number 1 that you do. Step 1. You are given a rigid body post and you are given with an action of forces and you are asked to replace that force system by its single force called resultant. And you understand here all the line of action of 3 forces are passes through point C. So this is concurrent system of forces. And now I can replace this by its single force by the step that you have learned in the last class. So this is your x axis and this is your y-axis representation. So now I can solve this problem by the learned process called resolution and composition. I have more than 2 forces, so I will go for resolution and composition. If I have only 2 forces, if these are the only 2 forces to be replaced by its resultant asked, then I would straight away go in for parallelogram law of forces. Or now also I can do that, but it is of 2 steps. I would combine these 2 forces and get a force, and then take that force with this and combine. I would get the same answer. Rather applying parallelogram law of forces to solve this problem, I'm going to solve and explain you how do you get this resultant by using the process called resolution and composition. So how do you resolve? Why is it called a resolution? I'm going to resolve these forces like this. So you take the first force, I'm projecting it on this axis, I'm projecting it on this axis. So I will have its component along x-axis, I will have the component along y-axis. Similarly, I can take the next force, project this on x-axis and project this on y-axis. So I would represent this by 2 forces acting along this. One is this, another one is this. So I will have here. Similarly, take the third force and project this along horizontal line and vertical line. So I have its component. Then you will have horizontal components 3 forces, vertical component 3 forces, and then you can compose them easily. So how do I do that? I'm going to do that in this fashion. See, I'm going to write here resultant in x direction. So Rx. So that is what is sigma fx. So what is sigma fx? I have to write it now. So let us write first the first force. So look at this with respect to tail of the force. This force is in first quadrant. So if I resolve, I get its component along positive x-axis and positive y-axis. What is the component along x-axis? This magnitude cos of this angle. So let me write that first 500 cos 16.26 degrees. And here it is plus sign. Why is it? Because I follow the convention to the right and upward forces are positive. So now this is a positive component of 500 Newton force. And next to 200 Newton force, again see it's projected along positive x direction with respect to its tail. So I would have here again plus 200. Angle to the horizontal is this, so adjacent side. So cos of angle, that is 36.87 degrees. Then the third force, again you look at now it's projected here on horizontal axis, but from point C or with respect to tail of the vector, tension vector, you see that is to the left, So you should follow the convention, that's minus 365 cos of angle 48.89 degrees. So this should solve for my Rx, that is resultant x component sum or sigma fx. So what is the value now? Let us calculate. So 500 into cos 16.26 plus 200 into cos 36.87 minus 365 into cos 48.89. So that comes out to be 400. So plus 400 Newton. And what is the direction? So since I get plus value here, it's all horizontal force component. So it is to the right. So this is my sigma fx. This is the value of sigma fx, or resultant x component, you would say. So now similarly, I wanted to find out some of the components which are resolved along vertical direction. So how do I get that? Sigma fy equals. So look at the first force with respect to tail, it's in first quadrant. So I'll have my vertical component in the positive direction, and the angle is to the horizontal. So it is opposite sine angle. So I would get plus 500 sine 16.26, 16. Just a minute. 26 degrees. And then look at the second force, 200 Newton with respect to point C. It is in fourth quadrant, so its component along vertical direction is downwards. So minus 200 sine 36.87 degrees. Then the third force, again look at that, it's in third quadrant with respect to its tail, and its component is negative direction component in vertical direction. So minus 365 sine of angle 48.89 degrees. So I would be able to get my vertical component sum. So let's calculate.
So this is
500.
resultant in, so the value will be resultant in y direction, right?
Yeah, the sum of all these three components will be component of resultant in y direction. Then I have to compose. So I am doing now the resolution process. Step 2 is resolving the forces. Right? Step 2. I am doing in step 2. It's resolving. Resolution I am doing. Resolution I'm doing. Then I will compose. So let us find out this value. 500
minus 255, sir.
Minus
255 newtons.
255. Yeah, just a minute. Let me just confirm. 500 into sine 16.26 minus 200 into sine 36.87 minus 365 into sine 48.89. So that's going to be minus 255, correct. So minus 255.01 Newton. So let us neglect that. So minus. So when you look at this minus sign, the convention is if I would have got a positive sign, then upward direction, but it is minus sign. So I can rewrite this as 255 Newton force acting down. This is what is summation of the three components which are acting in vertical direction. So now I have just got partially done. Why? Because it's Rx and Ry. This is Rx and Ry. But what is R? It is resultant composition of both of them. Since Rx is horizontal, Ry is vertical, and that forms rectangular components. So I would simply get it by Pythagoras theorem. Rx squared plus Ry square, or this is same as sigma fx square plus sigma fy square. So substitute the values of magnitudes. So I'll have Rx is 400, so 400 square plus 255 square, I would get my resultant magnitude. So 255 square plus 400 square, and the root of answer is 474.37 Newton. So this is my resultant R. So this is magnitude. So where is it going to act? This is going to act where? It's going to act at point C only. This force is going to act at point C because it is concurrent system of forces. So the given problem would be now replaced by, the given problem is what is that post, is that post. So the post BC, this is C, this is B, is replaced by a single force, and that single force components are what we have calculated. One is 400 Newton, another one is 255 Newton. So this is Rx and this is Ry. So now what is its resultant? You can replace these two by a single force, and it is very easy here because it's a triangle. So you would get your resultant force R, which is calculated by its magnitude 474.37 Newton. And you have its direction out to horizontal theta. So see now here it is, you can look at this type and this type. So if I bring in, what is that? It forms fourth quadrant space. So I require this angle to horizontal. So this angle theta will be tan inverse of opposite side is 255 and adjacent side is 400. So I would get this angle direction. So that comes out to be 255 divided by 400. Shift to tan inverse answer. That's 32.5 degrees. 5152 degrees. So that's the direction and the magnitude. So I have got now the resultant of this system of force called concurrent system of force. So this system of force is called what? Concurrent system of force. Concurrent system. Why? Because the three forces on a body on the post at point C are having common line of action, intersection, right?
Sir, I have a doubt, sir.
Yeah, please.
Sir, in this concurrent force question, sir, would it have been more complex if we use parallelogram rule?
It's not complex. If you are using it, it is repeated. See, what is that? If you have to solve the same problem by parallelogram law of forces, you have to take these two forces. So I know these two forces by magnitude. I know this direction angle included by this. So I know resultant would be what if I complete this parallelogram here like this, right? So you want me to solve, I think I just leave it to you to do a homework and then confirm the same answer. So what do you have to do essentially to solve this problem as like this? So you may have to complete this parallelogram. Let me just explain you. So let me draw for this. So draw a line from this head to this, like this. I have not drawn to the scale, and then draw here this. So that completes the parallelogram, right? So the diagonal of this parallelogram is the resultant of these two. Then you take that and find its angle. Then you should know that force and this 365 force. So that is an obtuse angle. Again you compose. So like that, if you have three forces concurrent system, you have to apply 2 times parallelogram law. If you have n forces, you have to do it n minus 1 times. So that's going to be tedious and there are chances of making mistake as the angular measurements are involved. So that is where the advantage of resolution and composition comes into picture. That's why I have explained you this method, but it is good that you have asked, and just to check that you get the same answer by applying 2 times the parallelogram law in this problem. Is that correct?
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
good.
sir.
Yeah. So now let's proceed with the next problem. Next problem, I'm going to take an example of forces which are parallel. So for that, I have just drawn this member, which is a horizontal member, and it's not supported. There is no member horizontal which can be free in space without support. We'll not worry for a moment about that point, right? We'll see that support has to be provided, and we will investigate that what type of support is required for this structure at the end of the solving problem. But just for the sake of procedure of finding out the resultant, let me take this horizontal member and acted upon by 4 system of forces. So 1, there are forces, just a minute, I'll take the same values, 20, 30, 5, 40. So this member is of 19 meters length, right? Over span. This is of 19 meters length. And let me have here a force acting, which is a downward force. And the value of that force is 20 Newton. And then from here at a distance of 6 meters, I have another force which is acting up. Its value is 30 Newton. Then I have a force at a distance 8 meters from this point. So this point A, this point B, and I have a point C at 8 meters away. There is another force, 5 Newton acting. So this is 8 meters. So how much is the remaining? 5 meters distance. I have another force, which is downward force of 40 Newton. 40 Newton force is acting. So now these are the 4 forces. So I have to ask you now the question, find its resultant. This is point C, this is point D. Right? So second problem of today's class, find the resultant. So it's very simple. So how do you find out the resultant? So here the forces all are parallel and vertical. There is no horizontal force acting on this member. So your resultant R is simply sigma Fy. So here resultant R simply sigma Fy gives you only what? Magnitude. Of course, the direction, you know, the magnitude, whether positive value or negative value, accordingly you would decide the direction. So let's just now find out, and you know the convention, upward forces are positive. So here this force is acting 20 Newton down, so 20 Newton down force, and then you have a force 30 Newton up, you have a force 5 Newton up, and you have another force 40 Newton down, so minus. So I have here minus 60 plus 35, so minus 25 Newton. So what does this minus sign represent? It is against this convention. So you have a resultant magnitude 25 Newton acting down. Right? So this is your resultant. So here it is not ending here solving this problem. What is left? Can anyone answer? Is this completing the solution for the problem?
Sir, distance, sir. Distance between A and
Sir,
B.
where the force is acting, sir, we don't know.
Yes, that is also important, right? So that's exactly how the force is characterized. That's what we have seen in the last class. A force is characterized by its magnitude and by its direction, and finally its point of application. In this problem case, we have this magnitude calculated and we have this direction, and its point of application is point C. But now on the second case, this problem where the member is acted by a parallel force system and you are able to calculate the magnitude and direction is downward direction. But where is the point of application? Then only this force is completely described by its resultant value, right? So I need to find out that now. So how do I find out that? For that you have to understand what is called moment of a force. Of a force about an axis. About an axis. So here this axis is perpendicular to this power point. So if I take point A and the point what I have marked and this comes out of my laptop screen, that's the axis. So I can call that as an axis or a point. So the point in a plane represent an axis perpendicular to the plane, right? So a moment of a force about a point about an axis is what is that you need to understand. So what is moment of a force about an axis? So that would be can be represented vectorially or by scalar way. So I am going to now look at it in a scalar way, and that we will extend it further. Why do I have to know this definition? Because I'm going to apply something called Waring-Nern's theorem. Waring-Nern's is consider your problem and proceed. Waring-Nern's theorem. So this Waring-Nern's theorem state what? I have here a number of forces. So if I take a moment of individual force about this point A, I would have the sum of that force, sum of the moments equal to the moment produced by this resultant force. So that's what is Waring-Nern's theorem statement. So the moment about a point A by an individual forces would be same as that of resultant into D. So where this D I call it as moment arm. Moment arm. So what do you mean by moment arm? If this is my point moment center, point A here is moment center. Modeling exercise, this is point moment center, and I take moment about this point, this perpendicular distance. So this is the line of action of individual force. The line drawn from the moment center to the line of action is perpendicular, then that is called the moment arm. So that is D. And here for this force, 30 Newton force, what is the moment arm? 6 meters. For 5 Newton force, what is the moment arm? 14 meters. For 40 Newton force, what is the moment arm? 19 meters. So this is what you understand. So the force magnitude into moment arm is what is magnitude of the turning moment. So that is representation in a scalar way, right? So now what is this sigma MA, the moment of individual force about point A? I'm going to find out on the left hand side first. And the convention that I follow here is counterclockwise moment. If I get, that's positive. So what do you mean by counterclockwise moment? So you look at your right hand and the four fingers, if you are aligning with the line of action of the force, and then make curve of these four fingers with respect to the moment center. So with respect to moment center, if my moment center is this side, so I curve this. So the thumb represents my positive direction of the moment, and that is what is the moment. So here in this case, it is counterclockwise moment is positive. So look at if the force is in this moment center is on this side. If I take a point D as my moment center, 30 Newton force would create clockwise moment about that. So that is negative moment. So this is the convention that we need to follow. So since now I'm going to use this, I'm going to have it here. This. So let's just do this exercise, finding the resultant moment. So what is that? 30 Newton force would create sigma MA. I'm calculating. So 30 Newton into moment arm 6, and the direction is counterclockwise, so it is positive. Then plus 5 into 14. Again, this is counterclockwise moment, so positive. But next moment you see 40 Newton, which is going to create, A is here and this point is here. So it creates a moment vector going inside the plane. So that is negative moment. So this 40 into this distance is 19 meters. So I would get my resultant moment. So we can calculate this now. So that's going to be 30 into 6 plus 5 into 14 minus 40 into 19. So that comes out to be minus 510 Newton meter. So this minus sign says what? If this would have been in counterclockwise sense, that's positive, but I get negative. Positive means it's counterclockwise moment, but I get minus sign. So that's going to be 510 Newton meter clockwise. So what does that you understand? These four forces would have a turning effect of this member ABCD with respect to point A in clockwise sense. If this is not constrained, it is free, then it would be rotating. The member would be rotating with respect to point A in clockwise sense. That's the meaning. And the rotation is because of this magnitude of turning moment. So this we have calculated now. So now you can have this value in Warrington's theorem. So left hand side is calculated, right hand side magnitude I know, I can find out what is D. Right. So in this problem, how many momentums are there? For 30 Newton a momentum, 5 Newton a momentum, 40 Newton a momentum. And now for a resultant momentum is the D distance from point A. That's what I'm going to find out. So I would take this on this side 510 Newton, and on the other side it's R 25 Newton into D. So D value will be how much it is? 510 divided by 25, that comes out to be 20.4 meters. That's the distance. So what does that you understand in this problem? I can replace this entire member, 4 forces. This member is of 19 meters length only. But these 4 forces which are physically acting on this member can be now replaced by a single force with the magnitude 25 Newton downwards with respect to point A at a distance 20.4 meters. And this is of value 25 Newton. See, look at this is very interesting problem. Look at this very interesting problem. So this 4 forces acting in a member now replaced by a single force which is not having its line of action on the member, right? When you are mathematically looking at it, applying Warrington's theorem, and you find out, you see this 25 Newton force is coming out of the member. So is it possible? So can you have a member in space free? Obvious answer is you can't have it. I can't have this stylus pen in space. If I take my both hand out, it will fall down. But if I constrain at one point, it is staying there. So I constrained the left hand side of my stylus pen. So this is now a cantilever. I fix at this end. So this is now cantilever. So to have a meaningful orientation or application of any structure, you require supports. You do not have in reality any system which is free in space. You may ask, airplane is in air space. So is it not free? It's not free because it is able to develop necessary thrust, lift force, and that is why it's flying up the sky. So if you look at the system of forces, you would see that there is support there. The lift force is supporting it. So there are no free body acted upon by system force in space. They will be attracted by gravitational force and it will fall down on the earth. So if this is the member, these 4 forces are acting, and you understand what is the resultant of system of forces, and you calculate now, and you wonder now when you apply Warrington's theorem, the resultant comes out of the member, shows what is the reality. So it required to be supported. So if you assume that support is now the point A is fixed, I call this structure to be a cantilever beam. This structure to be a cantilever beam. At that time, it is very meaningful to represent this force not at this point, rather at point A itself. So how do I do that? I would take this force 25 Newton here to this support, and I would cancel that force again here. So it is not changing anything. So I have this 25 Newton which is 20.4 meter away to point A, and I cancel that same force. So it is same as that of the previous configuration. But now, interestingly, you are able to look at the 2 forces which are parallel. These are the 2 25 Newton forces called or form a couple. This is what is called a couple. Because the magnitude is same, they are parallel, but it's in opposite sense. So you would have a couple moment. This is called a couple. And the magnitude of this couple is called a couple moment. And now what is this is called an equivalent force couple system. Equivalent force couple system. So what do you mean by equivalent force couple system? Whenever you have such kind of problem, which is not concurrent system of forces, you have a parallel system of force in this case, and you know on the member where the forces are acting to be constrained. So you are making this in fixed A. I can represent my entire resultant of this problem as 25 Newton acting at point A down with the equivalent couple. So look at a couple here. What is the sense of the couple? So this force here at point A is acting up 25 Newton. This force here at point E, say for example, point which is outside the beam and acting downwards. So this forms a couple which is clockwise couple when you look at it. So that couple magnitude is what? 25 into 20.4, which you just calculated here. So that's going to be this couple. So this is 510 Newton meter. So this is what is your resultant now. And in this process, you have learned an important concept in mechanics called equivalent force couple system. If you understand this, you would be able to do any problem, any system force playing around. Because we are going to look at now not the planar system of force. If I look at the forces which are spread in space, and we have to find its resultant. If we understand this concept called equivalent force couple system, it is very convenient for you to replace number of forces by its single force, right? So any doubt in this discussion with this problem? So I have chosen this problem deliberately so that you would understand not only how do you find out simple resultant, wherein you don't stop finding out only magnitude and direction. Also, you have to find out point of application. Therein, you have understood the significance of Warrington's theorem, and you would work with the Warrington's theorem if you have understood this definition of moment of a force about a point, and you have learned that, and you found this distance moment arm where your resultant force can be represented, and finally you have physically as an engineer able to think that a force cannot be out of the body to have its influence. Body cannot be free on the space. It has to be appropriately constrained for the requirement. So that essentially says this member can be supported, can be considered as a cantilever beam, and with these four loads, and it results in can be represented at a point conveniently at the support point A. Right? So this is summary of this. Do you have any more doubts? Otherwise, I would stop at this point for this problem. Right? So we would go into the next lecture, number 4. So before that, let me just go in for stop recording.